The moment Angel Reese looked into a microphone and compared herself to Michael Jordan, the entire basketball world froze for a second. Not because athletes shouldn't be confident. Confidence is part of greatness. But because comparisons like that come with a weight that only the most dominant players in sports history have ever been able to carry. Jordan isn't just a name you casually drop in a conversation about potential. He's 6 championships, 5 MVP awards, 10 scoring titles, a career field goal percentage hovering around 50%, and decades of proof that when the biggest moments arrived, he delivered. So when a player only a couple seasons into her professional career invokes that kind of legacy, people are going to look at the numbers. And the numbers tell a very different story. Reese has built a massive presence off the court with endorsements, social media, and her podcast Unapologetically Angel, and in today's sports world that matters. Branding matters. Personality matters. Marketability matters. But basketball still has a brutal way of cutting through the noise because the scoreboard doesn't care about branding. The rim doesn't care about social media followers. The stat sheet doesn't care about podcast downloads. And that's exactly where things became uncomfortable during a now viral conversation when WNBA legend Lisa Leslie sat directly across from Reese on her own podcast and calmly delivered a reality check that echoed across the league. Leslie isn't just another former player with opinions. She's the blueprint for dominant post play in women's basketball, 2 WNBA championships, multiple MVP awards, 4 Olympic gold medals, and a career built on mastering the exact skill Reese struggles with the most, finishing at the rim. So when Leslie leaned forward and told Reese that the biggest thing she needs to fix is her layups, it wasn't drama. It was expertise. It was mentorship. And it was honesty delivered in the one place Reese probably didn't expect to hear it, her own show. The numbers behind that advice are impossible to ignore. Reese's field goal percentage has hovered around the high 30s, and her efficiency near the basket, where elite post players usually dominate, has been shockingly inconsistent. For a player standing over 6'3", the expectation around the rim is simple: those shots are supposed to be automatic. They're supposed to be the easiest points on the floor. Instead, clips of missed layups started circulating online, announcers began reacting in disbelief during broadcasts, and social media did what social media always does, turn moments into memes. And suddenly the gap between the brand and the production became impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, in another part of the league, something completely different was happening. Caitlin Clark wasn't comparing herself to legends. She wasn't declaring herself the face of the sport. She was simply playing basketball at a level that forced the entire industry to pay attention. Her arrival in the WNBA didn't feel like a normal rookie season, it felt like a cultural event. Arena capacities had to expand when her team came to town. Television networks reshuffled schedules to broadcast more games. Jerseys flew off shelves, ticket prices skyrocketed. And suddenly the Women's National Basketball Association wasn't just another professional league fighting for airtime, it became must-watch television. When executives from networks like NBC Universal, Amazon, and the Walt Disney Company started analyzing the numbers, the effect was impossible to miss. Viewership surged. Attendance surged. Sponsorship interest surged. The result was a historic media agreement worth billions of dollars, a deal that fundamentally changed the financial future of the league. And while the WNBA has always had incredible talent, from legends like Leslie to modern stars across the league, the timing of that explosion lined up directly with Clark's arrival. That's why analysts began calling it the Caitlin Clark effect. It wasn't just hype, it was measurable impact. Forbes even placed Clark among the most powerful women in sports before she'd spent more than a season in the league, and major brands lined up with endorsement deals, including a massive partnership with Nike that includes a signature shoe and long-term investment in her brand. None of that came from noise. It came from numbers. It came from ratings. It came from fans who suddenly planned their evenings around watching Indiana Fever games because they knew something special might happen every time Clark touched the ball. What makes the contrast so fascinating isn't that one player is confident and the other is popular, it's that they represent two completely different paths to influence in modern sports. On one side you have Angel Reese building a cultural presence that stretches far beyond the basketball court. She's charismatic, outspoken, and clearly understands how media works in the digital age. Her partnership with Reebok reflects that approach, a bet on personality, visibility, and the idea that star power can grow even if the on-court numbers take time to catch up. There's nothing inherently wrong with that strategy. Plenty of athletes have turned charisma into global brands. But the risk comes when the narrative grows faster than the performance. When Reese spoke about being underpaid or suggested that she would eventually look back and see herself as one of the central reasons women's basketball exploded in popularity, critics didn't respond with emotion, they responded with statistics. And statistics can be ruthless. Because while Reese was making headlines for bold statements, Clark was quietly rewriting the economic story of the league. The Indiana Fever transformed almost overnight from a struggling franchise near the bottom of attendance rankings into the hottest ticket in women's basketball. Home arenas filled to capacity. Road games sold out weeks in advance. Broadcast audiences climbed into the millions. At one point, Clark's games alone accounted for a massive percentage of the league's total television audience. That kind of influence changes everything, from sponsorship negotiations to salary structures to the leverage players have during collective bargaining discussions. Even legends like Lisa Leslie acknowledged it openly, emphasizing that when one player drives that level of attention, every athlete in the league benefits from the financial ripple effect. Her message was simple but powerful: when the league grows, everyone eats. That perspective highlights the real divide in this conversation. It's not about liking one player more than another. It's about understanding how influence actually works in professional sports. Influence isn't measured by how loudly someone claims greatness, it's measured by the chain reaction their presence creates across an entire industry. Clark's impact extends beyond highlight plays. She's drawing new fans who never watched a WNBA game before. She's attracting sponsors who previously ignored the league. She's pushing networks to invest billions in long-term broadcasting rights. And inside the Fever organization, she's also building something sustainable with teammates like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, forming a roster that finally looks capable of competing deep into the postseason. That combination, individual brilliance plus team success plus massive commercial appeal, is the formula that transforms a great player into a generational figure. Reese still has time to grow into her potential. She's young, talented, and already one of the most recognizable personalities in the sport. But the conversation about legacy can't be rushed. Legends earn comparisons to Michael Jordan after years of dominance, not before. And that's why Leslie's moment on the podcast mattered so much. It wasn't an attack. It was a reminder of what greatness actually requires. Fix the fundamentals. Master the details. Put in the relentless work that turns weaknesses into strengths. Because in the end, the basketball world always separates noise from impact. One creates headlines for a day. The other reshapes an entire league. And right now, when analysts, executives, and fans look at the WNBA landscape, one name keeps appearing at the center of every major metric: viewership, attendance, sponsorships, and global attention. That name is Caitlin Clark. The debate about who truly moves the needle might continue on talk shows and social media, but the numbers already tell a story that's difficult to argue with. One player is building a brand that hopes to grow into greatness someday. The other is already forcing the entire sport to evolve in real time. And in professional basketball, where every possession, every shot, and every rating point can be measured, the difference between those two paths becomes impossible to ignore. And the deeper you dig into the modern WNBA landscape, the clearer the contrast becomes. Because while the conversation online